Hey guys, welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Today is Warcraft Monday and I'm going to be reacting to the Legacy of Paladin by Preach Gaming. If you want to check out my previous reactions to other Preach Gaming and other World of Warcraft related content, remember the playlist card will be at the top for Warcraft Monday, and just click on it and be able to access them. Yes, the Paladin class, it was not what I expected. I remember when I was watching Platinum WoW's vanilla WoW videos on the Paladin class, you know, how he was explaining the Paladin, how it's able to dispense auras, either to increase attack points of your allies or to increase your health or your stamina. It was more of a supportive role than it being a front attack class like a warrior, you know. But I know that they can wear, you know, armor that warrior class wear, you know, and they can attack as well. It's just that they're more of a supportive role. And yeah, they are warriors of the light, priests of the light, if I can also say that. And it's not necessarily a class that I would want, because it seems like, you know, you have responsibilities, like, you know, if you're with part of a group and you're fighting against a very powerful creature in PvE, then, you know, everyone is going to be clamoring on you to give them this certain type of aura or that type of aura. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want that kind of pressure on me. But yeah, let's see what Preach Gaming says about it. 3, 2, 1, go.
The Paladin. The Paladin is everything Blizzard wanted it to be. They care so much about the Paladin. A lot of times I hear saying things like, Blizz loves warriors. It's not true. The thing they care the most about in this game is the Paladin. Just look at Warcraft 3. The most integral and gripping story that they ever told was about a Paladin. Which means that most people wanted to be a Paladin. People wanted to be Arthas.
I don't know if people wanted to be Arthas, but what he says about, you know, the Paladin class might have been the most favorite and, you know, glorified class in Blizzard in terms of World of Warcraft. I think maybe that's true because of Warcraft 3. I also watched, well, the remastered version of Warcraft 3, and, you know, the story and the premise was based around these very important Paladins, you know, your Arthas and your Uther alike, you know. So yeah, I kind of agree with him on that point.
Arthas, technically, is a Death Knight pretty quickly in the game, but you know what? They didn't have Death Knights at launch. They didn't come till much later. So the Paladin, that's what inspired people. Thrall probably inspired a lot of people to be shamans, but the Paladin, Blizzard loves them, and they care about them. I'm excited to find out how they've developed. Only one issue though. No doubt they wanted to rock the golden locks of the prince, but also kick ass and take names like he did too. That ain't gonna happen. Let's get this out of the way for vanilla. Protection and retribution were both entirely dogshit throughout all of vanilla. Even simple spells such as Crusader Strike weren't added until just before the pre-Burning Crusade patches. So before we could do some endgame, how the hell did Paladins even level? Not easily is the answer, no joke. You had auto attack and judgment. That's it. Paladins craved the later levels to fight undead mobs, so they had an extra spell to use. I mean, who in their right mind looks forward to the Plague Lands? Damage was designed around the idea of seals, and there were a multitude of them. Seal of Wisdom, Seal of Light, Seal of Righteousness, and so on and so on and so on. For added flavour, every time you judged it, it would debuff the mobs based on your seal. Only that consumed your seal too, so every time you pressed your one attacking ability, every time you casted that judgment, it required you to recast your seal. So
The procedure is so complicated, and I would forget it almost immediately. And I can see that, you know, when the mana is finished, your character, you know, goes down to the floor and then drinks mana, just like how I think it was in Platinum Wow's video, how he, you know, showed how the mage, you know, goes down to the floor and starts drinking a mana liquid, you know, a mana potion. It's the same way. And I don't know, it's just weird, you know, how they just have to go down on the floor and drink. Like, really, it's weird.
Fun. It did allow paladins to do some incredible things. They may not have been able to do actual damage, but they couldn't die either, or go out of mana. An example would be judging Seal of Light onto an enemy, so every hit would heal you, and damage using Seal of Wisdom, which would restore your mana, eventually tickling a mob to death. Specking into Ret would grant you the amazing Seal of Command, a damage-specific seal which gave a chance of dealing damage. Yeah, a proc-based chance of doing some damage. Still better than the other choices, but yeah. Bad procs, you are straight up just doing auto-attack damage. Even though you could cap, and despite the atrocious gameplay, Paladins were the envy of the Horde. Holy Paladins were an incredible asset to any guild. I guess we could say the Paladin was a support class initially, designed around raid buffs with some off-healing thrown in for good measure. It would be some time until the power of the Paladin would be unleashed.
This is an actual UI, really? This clutter? Oh, okay. Yeah, well, there's some people out there who are used to this and they enjoy this. But for me, I don't know. It's just too much information to go through. Yeah.
We already mentioned that seals debuffing the enemy in a time where DPS went out of mana easily. Having Wisdom on a boss was an incredible DPS increase for every mana user. Not to mention the healing from Seal of Light from another Paladin stacking on top of it. Multiple Paladins was heaven. Blessings having always been incredible, but the stacking effect upon a raid, so creamy. Especially Blessings.
Okay, so you could stack the auras, you know. I thought maybe, like, if there's, like, for instance, if there's two paladins and one is activating this certain type of aura, the other one can't really do it because, you know, it's already activated and they'll have to do something else. But now that I'm hearing that you can actually stack them up, yeah, it's actually quite good, I think.
Of Salvation, which passively dropped a player's threat. I need to drill this home. Having multiple paladins in a raid in vanilla was the best thing ever, and it went underappreciated. So you've got paladins giving Blessing of Wisdom, giving more mana back, and also judging the boss with Wisdom. So every time a DPSer would attack, they would get mana back, which meant they could do more damage because they wouldn't go out of mana as fast. They were also healing the raid with Judgment of Light and Blessing of Light, so they were taking more healing. Then comes Blessing of Salvation. In vanilla, threat's a big deal, like a really big deal. For instance, if you did a critical strike as a mage, you would probably pull aggro off the tank in the early days, right? That was what would happen. So what we would see is DPSs standing around, jumping around, being unable to attack because of threat. With Blessing of Salvation, they had a dramatically reduced threat. As such, they just did so much more damage, because not only are tanks doing slightly more threat than what base DPSs are doing, but now the ceiling for what those base DPSs are doing is dramatically lower. So as the fight progressed, the gap between tank threat and DPS threat was immeasurable compared to what the Horde had to deal with. Now look at a Horde situation, especially a melee. You might be thinking, oh well, the Shamans had Tranquil Air, which did the same thing, right? Well, not when you take into the fact that Tranquil Air was group-based, and it also took up an air totem. And not when you can have either Tranquil Air or Wind Fury totem, which is the most amazing buff in the world. A choice the Alliance didn't have to make. You kind of see why the Horde envied Paladins just a bit. The decision, do we do a ton more damage with Wind Fury, or do we passively reduce your threat? Either one working against each other. There is a weird hypocrisy going on here. Despite raids loving having paladins in them, there was a combo of people who either accepted their lot in life was to heal without a chance of doing something different, or hated it, but accepted this is what was going to happen if you were going to raid as a paladin. Your other choice was to re-roll. Not so easy in vanilla. Life was pretty shitty.
Yeah, I can understand. Those who would want to contribute more to the guild or to a PVE matchup. They'd want to have a far more important role instead of just healing people and staying probably in the background. They also want to find their own glory and their own victory. So yeah, but like I've said before, like with me, I'm not really interested in the spotlight. I'll allow other people to do it, and yeah, the class, I'm still not really convinced with it whether I'd want to choose something like this, like a paladin. It's got interesting abilities, the different types of seals and auras that you're able to use, but I don't know. I'm still not really bought on it. So yeah.
Those super awesome blessings we discussed, they only lasted 5 minutes. How long's a raid? With 9 classes in a raid, it was a
5 minutes, meaning you have to be recasting this this aura or this blessing every 5 minutes. Wow. Okay, now that's definitely a reason why people would want to leave. To leave the class and take another class, because that's just going to be irritating. Really. Every 5 minutes, guys, imagine. Or after every 5 minutes, I should say. Yeah.
Total pain in the ass, rebuffing everyone, then a few minutes later having to redo it. Even having to do it in the middle of boss battles that lasted longer than the almighty 5-minute timer. On top of that, raiders were demanding that wisdom be up on the boss. You can imagine it yourself, put wisdom up. In reality, for the longest time, the best paladins were those who just managed buffs while throwing out the occasional heal.
And those who are saying put wisdom up, I bet you they don't even say please or thank you. At least show some sort of respect to those who you're requesting them, to put up these auras or seals. Say please and thank you at the end. Yeah. Yeah, I know it's a tough job.
That was to change though. By Nax, something incredible happened. Critical strike, and lots of it. As paladins were designed around the idea of buffs and debuffs, they got a wonderful mechanic to boost their healing. Every time a healing spell crit, it refunded 100% of the mana cost. In the amazing Nax gear, paladins were critting constantly. Ta-da! The most efficient healers in the game were born. While the Horde were abusing shamans and swapping them in and out of groups to mana-tide the priests, the Alliance was steamrolling by unstoppable healing spam of the paladins. With blessings changed to 15 minutes, it was a righteous time for PvP and PvE. The Burning Crusade. Pardon the pun here, but it was a blessing for the paladins. The cinematic clearly showed a retribution paladin and a glimmer of hope that the specs would be fixed. Promises of protection becoming a solid asset to a raid team. Did the promises live up to the expectations? Ironically, it was the mindset that was difficult to break. A whole armada of prot warriors with tried and tested worthiness as tanks weren't ready to give up their spots for their ex-healer compadres. And although Ret was buffed, it wasn't generally considered competitive enough to push out the newly powerful Shadow Priests and the original classic DPS spots. That's not to say they weren't viable. With the Horde now having the options of paladins, many, including myself, instantly re-rolled for the good of the raid and the guild. Ironically, it was the excellent buffs to protection that actually buffed Holy through the roof. One of the classic problems with prots is that it would run out of mana. Can't tank with no mana. So Blizz decided to give paladins a passive that gave a paladin extra mana when they were overhealed. You can kind of see where I'm going with this.
Overhealed? I'm not entirely sure what does he mean by that. Like if you take more than required healing potions, or you're healed more from whatever aura or seal that you have activated, or any other player that heals you but you're already having full health, and then what's ever been given to you is then diverted into mana. Is that what he means? I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Introducing the newly revamped and now raid crucial Shadow Priests, which brought with it the new Vampiric Touch, returning mana to its group members. Well, that's great for everyone, so what's the big deal about Paladins? Shadow Priests also had permanent Vampiric Embrace, which healed the group. Not for a lot, but yeah. Holy Paladins with a Shadow Priest in the group got double mana regen, essentially making it impossible to go out of mana while spamming Holy Light in crap gear. You can only imagine how this pushed out the eager Retties and Protties. But I want to try Ret. Tough. You are so effing good with a Shadow Priest, you kind of have to stay holy. Blizzard was there to help though. Bosses like Morrigan Tidewalker were perfectly suited to protection paladins, and more they started to pop up, and by the time of the disastrously terrible Mount Hyjal raid, well, put it this way, I didn't even want to go to that place without a prop paladin in my group. They were fucking awesome. They had one crushing problem though. All of the prop paladin's threat came from Holy Shield, which only works if you're getting hit. It made them completely useless on tank swap fights, and as such they were jokingly considered the masters of trash. But the warriors were still the kings of bosses. But come on, it was better than what it was in the past. Forgetting all that though, TBC brought in something that reaffirms Blizzard's love of the Paladin class, and for me, still the most incredible visual spell ever to exist. Avenging Wrath. It is the crux that Retribution needed to compete with everyone else's amazing cooldowns, and boy did it work. It was a long road, but Rets started to pop up regularly. This, however, led to another issue. Although both factions now had paladins, they wanted to keep some individuality, some uniqueness, and so seals were given to each side. Seal of Blood was the Horde variation. Originally thought of as a joke as it did significant damage to the player who dared trifle with such a spell, until it started to do a metric shit ton of damage, and without question, Horde Rep Paladins dominated their Alliance counterparts. Hilarious irony when you think about it. Also goes to show how common sense will always take a back seat to bigger numbers. TBC was the defining expansion for many classes. The Paladins enjoyed variety and greatness unlike anything they had seen before. By the Sunwell, Paladins were main tanks, crucial healers, and a solid DPS addition to the raid team.
So basically they became like all-rounders, you know, they could be used in different responsibilities. It's not just stuck being the supportive role anymore. You can be up front, you can be the tank, or you can be the healer, or you can be someone who would attack in long range, I'm assuming, you know. Okay.
Wonderful time. Wrath. Wrath attempted to do something Blizzard was regularly guilty of, fixing things that weren't really broken to begin with. Not only that, but the solutions to the problems that Paladins did have were made into endpoint talents, so you couldn't get the benefit of them for a very long time. The holy heroes had been crying out for some form of AoE healing, so jelly of their druid and shaman counterparts who had destroyed towards the end of the Burning Crusade. Feeling pigeonholed into single target tank healing, they craved something, just something to heal the other people in the raid. Blizzard's answer was Beacon. It's hard for me to express the crushing wave of disappointment through the Holy Pallies. Not only were they destined to press the two same spells for yet another year, but also they added more inconvenience to the spec by asking them to cast a damaging spell in the form of Judgment for a minor buff. My guild had several paladins re-roll to tank or ret, seeing the idea of, well, I used to be able to heal one tank, now I can heal two without actually changing anything in playstyle, just not being good enough. Despite that though, Holy Paladins did actually rock in output. On the good side, there were more Prot and Ret Paladins than ever. This was the era of Ardent Defender, or as it's called, the most overpowered passive ability in the history of the fucking game. As a warrior, I was completely jealous with rage over Ardent Defender. A passive continue button. What the fuck? This shit was incredible. especially with so many boss abilities that could trample other tanks. Algalon, Thorin, I Choose You Steelbreaker, and even Arthas' Soul Reaper, all forgiven to the mighty.
But guys, the UI, I thought I could get used to this, but I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's just too much. Yeah, it's just... There's just too many things, too many icons everywhere. Yeah. Oh, I'd be lost. I would be lost.
Ardent Defender. There was barely a raid without a prop Paladin. Why wouldn't you have one? Warriors, Druids, and DKs all pushed aside for their holy knights. What about Ret though? Their prayers have been somewhat answered with the Divine Storm. Some cleave to wash away the smiles of those rogue faces.
But which class would, not be entirely necessary for a guild to have in a PvE matchup, What specific class would you not actually really need? Because I can see, you definitely need a Paladin, you definitely need a Warrior, mages, who else? Probably Warlocks or Priests. So I'm just wondering, which class would you not really need when you go into PvE? Yeah.
Despite that, Wrath was also the beginning of the push all the things style of DPS. With Blizz desperately attempting to create a separation between seals and judgments, buffs, variations on those themes were just awkward and janky. Now Paladins had 3 different judgment spells. Yeah, I know, but why? Wisdom, Light, and Justice all having 3 separate benefits without the need to use a specific seal. I get it, but 3 judgment spells? It certainly seemed as though this was a distraction to overall design, as the playstyle of Ret just didn't make sense. Divine Storm and Consecrate still being DPS increases to single target, because there was just nothing else to press while waiting for your single target spells. The DPS was there though, but what spammy nonsense. Nevertheless, the Ret Paladin became crucial in the defeat of Heroic Arthas with the pure, unstoppable, and unrelenting damage.
Okay, I think I like this UI as well. It looks a bit simplified compared to what I've seen previously. Yes, this one looks a bit more manageable, I think. Yeah.
Holy pa! Wow, Paladins just got smashed with a hammer. Reworked isn't even the word. The spells might have the same names, but step back and drink it in. Combo points. The possible second coolest looking spell ever thrown in. New finishes, and what the fuck is this? The spec that had been hammered into the earth for years is now capable of some of the most powerful AoE healing of all the healing classes. Just what the fuck is going on? So now we have combo points for all the specs. What a fucked up time, but amazing as well. Holy was so dominant in every aspect. They got everything they asked for. With Wings, Guardian allowed for ludicrous levels of burst, and now there were abilities to monitor, decisions to be made, preparing for specific moments. No longer will that decision just be Holy Light or Flash of Light. It was so good. Rejoice, current day Paladins, because Cataclysm, it was your day of reckoning. It was again the Protties who held tightly to their reins of being the supreme tanks. So much in fact that they were regularly breaking mechanics of bosses. Block capping was taking names. Unfortunately though, passive continue button now needed to be pressed. Bummer, right? But it doesn't matter. The demolishing damage of Shield of the Righteous and the pure ability to prevent death on demand and also trivialize both magical and physical damage. My god, just to have the sheer nutsack to solo tank Balrog Heroic while mocking the other tanks who couldn't reliably duo tank it. It was so brave. It's good to be the king.
So brave, but imagine now your fingers, how exhausted you will be after fighting for so long. No. It sounds cool, what you're able to do, but I don't know. It still kind of feels exhausting for me. Yeah.
Ret's had a mixed up time in Kata. Changes is the theme. But instead of looking at push all the things, They added to it. On top of the usual, they added a new finisher, ultimate smash face ability, and now a buff that needed to be kept up. Why? Battle Shout and Horn of Winter had been moved away from this design, so why? Why throw it back in for Rets? At least Slice and Dice is a fun buff to keep up, choppy choppy. But more just, oh, here's more damage. Keep it up. It's just a lesson in inconvenience. Combined with the new Guardian, it also created the problem of Rets being God mode levels of damage for a short period of time, but then drooling around waiting for the cooldowns to come back. It kind of balanced out overall, and Rets were welcome. The doors never closed. Some even loved the playstyle, so who am I to judge? But it always seemed that despite the amazing visuals and spectacular moments of glory, the base foundation was never stable, so piling more crap on top just led to a more unstable and janky end product. So far, Mop has been kind to the Paladins in general. Holy's getting a little bit stale, but the Protties and the Rets are doing just fine. But that story isn't over yet, so we can reserve our judgment just for a little while. There's no doubt that the Paladin is one of the most beloved classes by Blizz. The sheer care and effort that has gone into making this class cool is remarkable. After so many years, they maintain their place as Holy Avengers, so true to their original design, while so many have fallen into gamey mechanics. And those wings pop, you know you're in trouble, and that justice is on its way. I hope you enjoyed this video. I've made another legacy video, one of the Rogue, and there's more to come. We're going to look at every single class, probably not the monks just yet. If you liked it, give me a like and let me know that you like it, and we can get making more faster. Other than that, have a great day. I'll see you guys later.
Okay guys, that was the Legacy of Paladin by Preach Gaming. Yes, the Paladin class, warrior, priest, warrior of the light, has also gone through some developments. You know, first it was exclusively made for the alliance side, you know, and you know it was envied by the Horde players, you know, that they could have a class that had such abilities. And then over time, I think it was during not Wrath of the Lich King, but during Burning Crusade, that's when they started to add in a class that is similar to the Alliance Paladin class. I think it was called the Shadow Priest, if I'm not mistaken, you know, and they gave them their own unique, separate Paladin, you know, that's not really similar to the Alliance Paladin, and it had far more powerful auras, you know, for attack than the Alliance one. And you know, like from in my own personal standpoint, I still don't see it as a class that I would choose, mainly because of the responsibilities demanded by a Paladin class, you know, especially during a raid, during PvE or PvP as they call them, you know. And I don't know, like for me, I would want to shy away from such responsibilities and give it to someone else. But like Preach Gaming says, that you know, the Paladin class became a very important class over time, that people wanted to choose, people wanted to have in their group, especially when they were dealing with very powerful enemies. And yeah, like for some reason, I don't know why it does Blizzard or the World of Warcraft team in particular, you know, when they create new iterations of the game, they always try to mix things up or change things up, when they could just stick with the original path that they've set out for the Paladin and just improve on that instead of changing it to a point where players may not actually really like it much. So during Wrath of the Lich King, that's where things started to, you know, unravel a bit for the class. But otherwise, it's a very integral class for any group, and you know, if you don't have one or two or three of them, then you might have problems down the line. And the ability to stack their auras. That's also very important. That's also very, very good, I would say, as well. Maybe that's why many people over time got used to becoming the Paladin and using this class not only as a class for supporting the other group members, but also going up front and fighting against the enemy, since they've been able to, since the World of Warcraft iterations have improved the Paladin class, if I can say it like that. So yeah, the Paladin class had a rocky start, had a very rocky start, but as it continued further with the many iterations of World of Warcraft, that's when it started to improve, and it became an integral part to any raiding group. Yeah, it's good. It's good. Okay, guys, I guess that's it. That's it for today. If you liked the video, remember to give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos. And I will see you next week, Monday. Okay? Bye-bye.